What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be making a rolling pin, but not just any rolling pin. We're going to be making my own version of this rolling pin, or this one, or this one, or this one. I like to call it a wacky rolling pin. I have never made one before. I've never even come close to making one before. I've only made a few rolling pins in my turning career. So this rolling pin was very intimidating. But when someone challenges me to make them and also offers a little bit of money on the side, you know I gotta say yes. Plus, I love challenging myself and trying to learn different techniques with turning. So let's get into it. So with this project, it took so much cutting. It took a ton of cutting and a ton of glue. By the end of it, I was honestly surprised at how much glue I used and also how much time it took just in the cutting process to make these blanks. I'm using the three basic woods here, walnut, maple, and cherry, to make these blanks. And I think with just these three woods, the blanks came out looking really cool. But if you wanted to make them look really crazy, you could add in 4, 5, or 6 different species of wood, and that would really give these a crazy effect. And I ended up resawing some of these boards because I think that it's going to look better and add to the effect of the craziness. Throwing in some 1/4 inch boards and some 3/4 inch boards is just going to keep things sporadic. Now, trying to think ahead, I wanted to make this rolling pin blank as thick as possible, just because I knew that the more that I cut it, the more material I'm going to lose, and I wanted plenty of material to work with when I started turning the rolling pin. I'm making sure to use as much glue as I think I need because I wanted to make sure that there were no gaps in these rolling pins. Cutting and gluing and cutting and gluing is almost a surefire way to ensure that you're going to have gaps. So the more glue and the better pressure I could get on these bad boys, the better. Also, making sure that they're good and flat, using the drum sander or whatever other ways I needed to make sure that they were flat is definitely going to help. And I definitely can say I walked away from this first glue up feeling pretty good about it. I of course used type on 3 because this is going to be used on food and going to be washed and all the stuff, and I wanted something that was going to hold it together. So now that that glue up has dried and cured, I start the process all over again by cutting this blank into more pieces, and then I'm just gonna glue it up again. I gotta say, having a bandsaw to help me achieve this, I probably could have gotten it done with a table saw, but a bandsaw just made it so much easier. And I'm already feeling like I need a bigger bandsaw. So the pattern to this is pretty simple. It's just flipping over each board and mixing them up. If you wanted to get even crazier, you could glue this up and then recut it again and glue it up again. You know, you could just cut and glue as many times as you want. I was planning to do that with this blank, but it was already getting pretty thin. I think at this point it was 2.5 by 2.5. And I didn't want it to get any thinner because I wasn't sure how this thing was going to turn, and I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of material to work with. But once that glue up had cured and I had gotten everything squared up, I could then get to the most stressful part for me about this rolling pin blank, which was cutting and gluing all of these angled pieces up. I am not 100% sure about the angle that I cut these at, but I think it was somewhere around 15. I don't think that the angle matters too much, but just know that the steeper the angle, the harder the glue up is going to be. But I also think the cooler the rolling pin might look. That's definitely something that is fun about these kind of rolling pins, is that it's just an experiment and you can just keep cutting and gluing. I know I've already said that, but really the sky's the limit, I think, on these style of rolling pins. Once I had all my angles cut, I then just flipped over every other piece to give myself a sort of chaotic pattern, and then I could go and sand each and every piece just to ensure that every piece is flat. And yeah, I know I need to remake my disc sander for my lathe. It's pretty wobbly, but don't worry, every piece still came out nice and flat. And now it's time to move on to the glue up. I had definitely some trial and error in learning how to glue up these pieces. My first attempt did not go very well, and I ended up with some gaps in one of my rolling pins. But then I remember that one of my buddies, Luke, at Luke in the Garage on Instagram, used angle iron to glue up some rolling pins that he recently did like this. So I went out and I bought some of that immediately, and that definitely did the trick. Again, I tried to use probably a little more glue than I needed, but if you're a wood turner, you know how fast these things are spinning, and end grain to end grain glue ups don't usually go all that well, and so I really did not want these things to explode on me. That is probably my biggest fear of turning these rolling pins. But man, seeing these rolling pin blanks all squared up and ready to go got me so excited to get them on the lathe. So here are my concerns with turning these blanks. The first one I already mentioned, end grain to end grain glue up, a little bit scary because those tend to fail. So I knew I couldn't be super aggressive with this blank, and I really did not want to get any sort of catch turning this blank. The second one was that there are 3 different types of wood in this blank, meaning each wood is going to turn differently and sand differently. So I needed to be very careful on my final passes and on my sanding to ensure that the blank comes out nice and round. I discussed something like this in one of my previous rolling pin videos. If you'd like, go and check that out to understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. And because one of my rolling pin blanks came out with some gapping in it, I ended up cutting it short and remaking a whole nother blank. So I ended up coming out of this project with 3 rolling pins for the client, which I'm really happy with, and they are also really happy with. They ended up purchasing all 3, which of course was a win-win for me. All of these rolling pins were finished with walrus oil furniture butter, which is a food safe, vegan approved finish, and it's going to be great to ensure a long lasting protection for these rolling pins and all of the baking and cookies that they are going to see. I had a blast learning how to make these things, and I'm glad that all of you came along with me to see how I do them. There are plenty of other ways to do these, I'm sure, and the design possibilities on these are just endless. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you guys got some inspiration from me on these things and learned a little bit on how to make them. Be good, be safe, be happy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace!